So what I did when I decided that I was actually going to change things up and I moved, one of the first things I did was moving across to cloud-based property management software. Then it was all about getting that centralizing workflows, making sure that everything was trackable and visible. So if my property managers walked away tomorrow, I would know where absolutely everything was. I could see nothing was hidden. And I wanted it to be, I wanted to create a lot of transparency for my clients as well. But I'll be honest, what really happened was my team absolutely hated it. They had become used to working in the chaos. They were used to telling me what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And now I was asking them to use software to track their work, to follow processes. And the resistance was real. Some of them pushed back really hard and they didn't want the change. They didn't want to be accountable in that way. And in one week, one absolutely brutal week, I lost several property managers. The transition was messy, things fell through the cracks, clients weren't getting the experience they were promised. I panicked and I thought maybe systemizing my business was a mistake. Was it working just fine in chaos? Hey there, and welcome to the Property Management Podcast. Thank you so much for having me in your ears. And you know what I see all the time? Property managers absolutely killing it operationally. They're responsive, they're handling the maintenance calls, they're keeping up, keeping the properties running smoothly. But then they'll pull me aside and say, Kylie, I feel like I'm drowning. I'm working 60 hours a week and I don't know where all the time is going. I never seem to have time to get through all my special projects. I never have time for prospecting. I never have time to do videos for online. And my business just doesn't feel like a business. It feels like I'm just working all the time. And if you hear yourself in that, trust me, you're not alone. And I get it because I've lived that too. For years, I was operating in complete and utter chaos. There's no other word for it. And I'm not too proud to admit that I probably did absolutely everything wrong running my business, which is why I'm here to share on this podcast all the mistakes that I made so that you don't have to make them and I can fast track you to where you need to get to. But everything was in my head. In my emails were scattered. I had notebook upon notebook with ideas that I never seemed to get to. I had spreadsheet on top of spreadsheet. I knew where everything was because I held it all. But it also meant that nothing happened unless I made it happen. I was the business and I was absolutely exhausted. But I loved being needed. I loved being that person everybody had to go to. When you're that type of personality or when you're carrying those type of wounds, you like to be the person that everybody needs and the problem solver, the fixer of everything. The problem is you can't scale like that and it really does eventually take its toll on your health. You can't build a team, you can't take a day off, and more importantly, you can't actually grow beyond yourself because you've become the bottleneck. So, today I'm going to walk you through the exact three systems that changed the game for me. But I'm also going to be honest about what happened when I actually tried to implement them because it wasn't pretty. So, system number one, client communication and relationship management. So, let me start with the foundation, your client communication system. When I was operating in chaos, everything was reactive emails, phone calls, messages. I was responsive, sure, but I was also completely fragmented. A client would email, I'd respond immediately, or someone would text, I'd jump on it. I felt like I was always on. The real problem, I wasn't building relationships. I was just servicing clients. And the moment something slipped, and of course it did, I'm human, they'd all feel it. A real client communication system means you're intentional about how and when you're talking to your clients. It might be through your CRM, it might be a structured process, but it's something that centralizes where clients are and what they need and what they've been promised. It's a difference between feeling like you're firefighting 24/7 and actually having a rhythm. And this is where having something like a 12-month client communication plan comes into play. And I'll share the link to one that I have created for my PM Accelerate members. It gives you 12 months of touch points with your clients, but it also means having an amazing onboarding system that lasts beyond just the initial welcome letter, that moves towards inviting them to leave you a Google review, that moves towards having an investor audit with them when you're coming up to end of financial year. And if you listen to last week or the week before's episode, I think it was 266, I did an episode on how you can create an investor audit. It means having a system around all the touch points that you are going to have with your client when you onboard them, throughout the relationship with them, and even when it comes to offboarding them as well. Sometimes people leave for the pure fact of fees, but they get to somewhere else and they realize that the grass is not always greener on the other side. So maintaining that communication plan, having a system around how to keep in touch with them after they leave your business is as important as an onboarding plan as well. Even developing the relationships through prospecting as well. Having a system around what those touch points look like is really important. And rarely is anyone going to reach out to somebody the first time and get the business unless they're looking for you. It's always them building that relationship, multiple touch points before they are likely to become a paying client with you. So have a system built around what that actually looks like. And it only works when you have it documented, when your team is across it, it's out of your head, and it's actually a system that everybody can. And with AI and automation now, it's never been more easy to create this consistent client communication plan as well. Now, the second system I want to share with you is your operations and task management. This is how you build those processes and those workflows in your business. And this is probably where my own personal story gets really real. When I decided to actually systemize my business, the first thing I did was probably work really long hours. I'm talking like 12, 14, 16-hour days. My kids lived on 2-minute noodles, and I practically woke up at 5 o'clock and in the morning went to the office, and I was home at 8, 9 o'clock every single night. That wasn't for a long period of time. That was for a season, but I had to do that season. And sometimes you've just got to put in the hard yards for a short moment of time to get long-term rewards. So what I did when I decided that I was actually going to change things up, and I moved, first things I did was moving across to cloud-based property management software. Then it was all about getting that centralizing workflows, making sure that everything was trackable and visible. So if my property managers walked away tomorrow, I would know where absolutely everything was. I could see nothing was hidden. And I wanted to create a lot of transparency for my clients as well. But I'll be honest, what really happened was my team absolutely hated it. They had become used to working in the chaos. They were used to telling me what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And now I was asking them to use software to track their work, to follow processes. And the resistance was real. Some of them pushed back really hard and they didn't want the change. They didn't want to be accountable in that way. And in 1 week, one absolutely brutal week, I lost several property managers. The transition was messy. Things fell through the cracks. Clients weren't getting the experience they were promised. I panicked and I thought maybe systemizing my business was a mistake. Was it working just fine in chaos? This episode is proudly supported by ALO. And if you've been listening to the show for a while, you've probably noticed what I've noticed. The property managers doing the most interesting work right now keep mentioning the same platform. And I saw it close up at the Harcourt Solutions study tour in Brisbane. The way teams talk about their day has changed. And if you want to hear it for yourself, ALO hosts after-hours intimate events at Mecca stores across Australia, where you can listen to property managers share their own story. So book a demo at alo.io, that's AILO.io, and ALO will send you a Mecca gift card to say thanks. The clients seemed happy, my property managers seemed happy, but I was not happy, and my health was certainly not happy with me. And when you're operating in chaos, the other side of chaos is actually clarity. So once we got through it, once the team understood why we were doing this, once things started to become easier, their workloads were suddenly not as crazy, everything started to change. Suddenly, people weren't drowning. Suddenly, I could see what was actually happening and we could start to scale. And you need somewhere that says what needs to happen, who's going to do it, when it's due, is it actually done? And everyone needs to be able to see it, not just because you're micromanaging, but because you're creating clarity and transparency. And this is where, when I got an offshore team, I got some virtual assistants in, was an absolute game changer. So once you can see workload in a system, you can start delegating it. Our taskers, for example, can handle your follow-ups, your compliance checks, your scheduling, your document management. And here's the key: they can only do that effectively if the work is actually mapped out in systems. Otherwise, they're just another person fumbling around in the chaos with you. So when I brought in taskers before I had the systems, nightmare. Nothing worked. But once the systems were in place, the workflows were in place, the processes, the SOPs were in place, the templates were all set up, a tasker could just pick up a workflow and execute it without anyone hand holding them. Not you, not your team. And that's where delegation actually works. Then moving on to system number 3, and that is your marketing and visibility. This is honestly what keeps most of us visible in our own market. And it's never been more competitive and more important than it is right now to find that online presence and to stand out online. And I know that you're great at what you do and your clients love you, but new prospects have no idea you exist. So you're always chasing, always trying to find that next client, always stressed about your pipeline, and it too can be really exhausting. A marketing system means that you've decided how people are going to know about you. Is it referrals? Is it your presence on socials? Is it your local partnerships? Is it your podcast, your blog post? Is it your BNI? It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that it's intentional and consistent. And the reason our Done For You social media exists because I kept seeing property managers say, I don't know what I know I should be on social media, and I know it works, but I don't have the time. I don't know what to post. I don't know when to post. And I was that person as well. And I still am that person. If I can find an excuse not to do a video online, let me tell you, I'll find an excuse not to do that video online. But your social media means showing up. You're building authority, which means you're going to get found in AI searches now. Ultimately, though, the goal is to be attracting the right people into your business. You're not chasing them. You become an attraction agent. Once you start pulling those leads in, that's where a marketing system comes in, your prospecting system comes into play, your communication plan comes in. How are you going to follow up with those leads? What does your pipeline look like? What does your workflow look like? And here's the honest truth. That week when I lost, I think 3 or 4 property managers, it was painful. It felt like failure, but it was actually the price of growing my business. And because the property managers I know who've truly scaled, who've built sustainable, successful businesses, whether or not they were working 60 hours a week or 20 hours a week, where they can actually breathe, they all went through this difficult transition at some stage. And they all eventually systemized. They all lost something along the way, but they gained so much more on the other side. And every property manager I know who's scaled without burning out has these 3 things really locked in. They know how they're communicating with their clients. They know exactly what works, what needs doing, and who's doing it. And they know how prospects are finding them. The tools don't matter as much as the systems. You could use fancy software, or a simple notebook. It's the discipline of having a system that changes everything. But you have to actually do it. You have to push through the discomfort of your team resisting. You have to accept that the transition might be messy. But on the other side, your business actually works for you instead of the other way around. And if you're in PM Accelerate, we've got templates, frameworks for all three of these. If not, maybe it's time to look at where you're leaking the most energy right now and get something or one of these things systemized in the next few weeks, even if it's really uncomfortable. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I really hope you can take some value from it. Can I ask you a quick favour before you leave this episode? Now, we all know how important reviews are for businesses these days, and mine is no different. If you could spare just a minute to follow, rate and review this podcast, it would mean a lot to me. In fact, what would get me super excited is if you share this podcast with someone in the industry who you think might need to hear some of the episodes right now. And if you'd like to find out more about working with me or any of the products I have to help you start, grow or scale your property management business, head to my website, thatpropertymum.com.au, or check out the links in the show notes.